All right, guys, so we have now been able to confirm who Fnatic's jungler is going to be for the 2026 season, and not only that, I also believe this is the final roster spot confirmation that we still had left in the LEC, so after this, we will now have every single LEC roster fully completed. We're definitely going to be doing, tier lists and power rankings and all that good stuff as we prepare for the beginning of the LEC season. Obviously, at this point, this is not breaking news. This story is a couple of days old at this point, but it's still a very, very huge story. Still something I wanted to cover, still something I wanted to talk about. I had a little, was very busy over Thanksgiving break the last couple of days, so didn't get to, cover this as soon as I would have wanted to, but we do have news, again, that Razork is confirmed going to be the starting jungler of Fnatic to kick off the 2026 season, and this article has plenty of details and stories about how this all went down, as well as another reason why I wanted to cover this, because I know the Sheep Esports team did a lot of work in this offseason covering this story and trying to get the full details of how everything went down, because again, there were certainly times during the offseason where it seemed to a lot of people like Razork was not going to be the jungler for Fnatic in 2026. So we do have the subheading here that Vladdy actually wanted to play with Razork, who is now going to be staying for a 5th year with Fnatic. Fnatic has finalized its roster after a long offseason. The team has finally decided they will continue with Razork as their starting jungler for 2026. Despite having the possibility to move to other teams, the Black and Orange's captain is set to remain the team for a 5th consecutive year in the LEC. This makes Razork one of the longest serving players in Fnatic's history, surpassing the 10 years of legends like Xpeke and Hylissang, although he stands out as the only one among those guys yet to lift a trophy with the organization. So obviously that's something Fnatic and Fnatic fans definitely want to get back to those winning ways. With Razork re-signing, Fnatic's offseason is finally wrapping up after what could be their slowest in the LEC. Vladdy has arrived from Carmine Corp, and he wanted to team up with the jungler to form one of the most highly regarded mid-jungle duos in the LEC. Alongside them, 2 rookies fell out the roster, Imperios in the top lane, Lospa as the new support. Meanwhile, Upset has re-signed to remain the bot laner for Fnatic for a 4th year. After Worlds 2025, Fnatic allowed every player on its roster to explore options. Razork, Poby, Oscar, and Mickey were all contracted through 2026, while Upset's deal was set to expire at the end of 2025. Mickey was the first to move on, signing with SK Gaming early in the offseason, leaving the rest of the lineup in an uncertain position as Fnatic evaluated changes across multiple roles. Fnatic explored several avenues for the jungle position. They requested permission to speak with Navi regarding a possible trade involving Razork. Navi declined, making it clear they had no intention of moving Rylek, who had been signed long before the offseason with the intention of starting him in 2026. At the same time, Fnatic also opened discussions with Team Heretics. Heretics received permission to talk to Razork and submitted a formal offer, but the Spanish jungler chose to turn it down. Another option on the table with Giant X early in the offseason, a potential player swap, swapping Razork for June, was discussed. However, the discussions did not progress. Neither side reached an agreement, and the move ultimately stalled. This also clashed with one of Razork's expressed preferences. If he were to leave, he hoped to play alongside June again, which would not have been possible under the conditions of that swap. Obviously, if they're trading those guys for each other, they're not going to be able to play with each other. As negotiations continued, Fnatic began preparing contingency plans in case Razork departed, identifying junglers Yukino and Sheo among the possible candidates to replace him, the former being an option if Razork accepted to join Team Heretics. Fnatic then made a renewed push to acquire June directly from Giant X without involving any swap. Multiple offers were submitted, including a significant buyout attempt. Giant X ultimately declined these offers, ending Fnatic's pursuit and closing the door on a reunion with their former support. In parallel, Fnatic advanced talks with Vladdy, who decided to leave KC. The mid laner had multiple options across the LEC, including Team Heretics, Team Vitality, Giant X, and Navi, as well as interest from North America. Ultimately, Vladdy chose Fnatic, motivated by the chance to play at Worlds and compete in a project he deemed serious and ambitious. He was also keen to team up with Razork, finalizing Fnatic's decision to rebuild around the seasoned jungler. A buyout agreement with KC, who had Vladdy under contract until 2027, remains the final piece of negotiation. Fnatic's 2026 roster is now fully locked in, making them the last LEC team to finalize their offseason. After an eventful period of roster changes, all positions are set as the organization overhauls its lineup under head coach Grabs. With the cards reshuffled and the ceiling yet unknown, Fnatic heads into 2026 with a fresh recipe and a season that is, for once, hard to predict. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. Again, there was so many different possibilities, places that Razork could have ended up, junglers that Fnatic could have had instead, moves moves that could have went down. But at the end of the day, ends up being an overall fairly tame offseason for Fnatic. Yes, they do make a couple of swaps where they change out 3 players, but Razork and Upset were both big question marks at certain different points in the offseason, and they are now back for 2026, and Fnatic has its roster done. We'll have to see what the heck happens now. I don't know exactly where fans' expectations are going to be for this team, but we'll have to see how it all plays out. Obviously, there's a lot of guys who have some big potential, some big question marks, and some big expectations to fill. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Hopefully catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.